to the Meant for More Mindset podcast. I'm Yar. As a peak performance coach and lifestyle architect, I help women who are ready to reach their next level, eliminate negative self-talk, and break through what's been holding them back so they can have clarity, confidence, and prosperity in their career and lifestyle. This podcast is to empower you with a Meant for More mindset and help you reach your next level so you can uncover your purpose, reclaim your power, and reach your potential. This means no longer living by default, but dreaming big and pushing yourself to be, do, and have more. I want everyone to know that change is possible, that you are not alone, and there is an alternative way forward. Because when you change your mind, it will change your life. Hi, and welcome to the Meant for More Mindset podcast with me, Yar. Today, I have the lovely Laurelle Brown. Laurelle, how are you today? You okay?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
And we're excited to have you. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Laurelle Brown. I'm CEO of Laurelle Brown Training and Consultancy, and we help organisations work better for racially minoritized children. I'm also co-founder and director of KIJIJI, which is the community for safeguarding children professionals, and I do a range of other bits and pieces to do with children and young people.
Oh, wow. That sounds so amazing. So before we get into the interview, please tell us something interesting about you that most people don't know.
I hope it's interesting. I've done a skydive before. I did a 12,000 feet skydive in New Zealand with my dad. We did it together. Yeah.
Wow. I did it, but I did it ages ago.
Did you?
Yeah, 2006, but I didn't do New Zealand. I did it very much in the UK. So you win. But I wanted to ask you, was it in tandem or did you just jump by yourself?
No, so it was like one after the other. We were on the same aircraft though. But yeah, we were out then. Like New Zealand's got lots of sports stuff like that.
Mm.
So it was like a
Yeah,
faith in fears thing,
yeah. So were you attached to anybody or were like, yeah.
Yes.
Because I had a friend who's done it and she just jumped out of the plane by herself. She goes, yeah, I went for training in the morning and in the afternoon I jumped. I was like, oh, okay.
Yes, I respect her bravery. I'm not that brave. I was
Yes.
even not wanting to jump out the plane with the man on my back, but I decided, like, you gotta go.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So,
Oh,
where did
wow.
you do yours? In the UK?
Yeah, I did it in the UK. I want to say it was so long ago. I want to say it was somewhere in Kent.
Wow.
Yeah, I just want to say that was somewhere in Kent, and it was good. Like you, very very scared, and afterwards, I just remember the adrenaline rush afterwards, and it's like, oh my god, like this is why people take illegal substances because it feels so
Literally. Literally. Honestly. And that's almost why I did it, because I just felt like it was important to try and face fears. But it was funny. Our aircraft, there was like a boy on there. He was about 8 or 7, and it was one by one. We're all jumping off, and I was like, "This child, he's just never going to do it." Because as you're getting higher and higher, I was thinking, surely, like we've already reached this 12,000 feet. And the way the boy just ran and jumped out of the plane, I said, "No way." No way. But I think it's powerful because as we get older, and I think this is the part of your kind of brand, like we might think about being meant for more, that he had no limitation, no self-imposed limitations, he just ran and jumped, didn't care. And I
yeah.
was like, I have to channel that energy, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. Wow. So going back a little bit, can you tell me about how you got to where you are today, professionally? Like, what's your story?
Yeah, it's okay. So I'll try and keep it brief. So in a nutshell, I started off working in the children and young people sector over 20 years ago. I first started off as a volunteer on play schemes for children with disabilities in Buckinghamshire and High Wycombe, where I grew up. And this interest followed a school assembly where Women's Aid came and did an assembly, and they were talking about what they do, refugees and all this kind of stuff. And listening to them kind of gave me a bit of a language to express some of the experiences that I'd observed or experienced in my childhood. And there was just a real deep connection there. Like, I want to do that. I want to like help people, and I want to help the children that are like impacted by some of these issues. So I don't know if when you were going to school, you used to have like Mufti Day, where No, okay. So Mufti Day was where you got to wear your own clothes and you had to pay £1, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
we called it non-uniform day. Yeah, we had it too.
Ah, okay. So the school let me organise one to raise money for Women's Aid, and that was it. The seed was sown. I was just, yeah, committed. So I went on to find like a volunteering opportunity. So I started on the schemes, and then yeah, the rest is history. I've worked across lots of different services for children, young people, from education as safeguarding officer to children's charities managing services for sexually exploited children to being an advocate for care experienced children and children in need of statutory services to working in the Mayor of London's Violence Reduction Unit, managing portfolios of different uh, grants, and yeah, to where I am now. And I qualified as a youth and community worker along the way. I did my MA and I have undertaken other kind of formal qualifications like management and stuff along the way as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So what motivates you to like do all this work and help? Because it's amazing, like helping young people. Like what motivates that in you?
It's a good question, because I ask myself because it's not easy. Um, and I think the motivation, this is deeply personal to me. As I said, that assembly gave me a language for some of my own experiences that were missed by the school. They were missed by the professionals in my life. I got diagnosed as an adult with ADHD. Again, those signs were missed by the professionals in my life, and instead they excluded me numerous times from school. I was always being punished, and no one thought to ask the question, is there something going on here? Not just a bad child. I have like lots of different um, traumas in my family and adversities that, services have caused but also failed to prevent. And so my motivation is largely trying to prevent other children having those experiences that I've had, that family members have had and still having. Because I just feel like if I'm not going to do this work, and there are many incredible people doing this similar work, by the way, but who's going to care about these Black children and families in particular, if not me?
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And I loved what you spoke about there because there's so many. I think now being neurodiverse is more prominent. So I have dyslexia, so I'm also neurodiverse, and it's that thing of where as a child you get labeled as something that you're not simply because it's not recognized, and so you kind of go out into the world feeling like a misfit, and because you go out into the world feeling like a misfit you never feel good enough, and so to be able now to give that to young people so they can go out into the world feeling fortified within themselves, knowing that they themselves are enough, I think is amazing. In terms of you and what you didn't have, is there anything that you wish you would have had within your career that you wish you would have known within your career that you that would have helped you at the beginning or even maybe now?
Yeah, I think if I knew earlier on the importance of self-care,
Mm.
um, as a practitioner, when I was doing direct work with children and young people, sometimes in organizations I had good self-care like supervision, group supervision, stuff like that. Other times there wasn't anything.
Mm.
And actually I wish I knew just how hard this work is, like emotionally and mentally, or how that compounds over time, and making sure I either insist on it or ask very clearly about it at interview. Um, and that's something that I've obviously learned the value of as time's progressed. And in my own company, we make sure we invest in self-care, we make sure we invest in supervision or therapy, and just bringing people away from their work, just connecting relationally. But I really wish I knew how much toll this would take. Basically, it's a lot to see trauma and adversities, year after year after year after year.
Yeah. And what does good self-care look like to you? Because for a lot of people, this whole idea of self-care is like take a bubble bath and you're good.
This is the question. If you've got any tips for me, please share, because I'm trying to work it out. I'm trying to be better at working out when I'm nearing burnout. I'm not trying, yeah, I'm on a journey myself. So at the moment, better self-care. I don't know if I've got to good. Better self-care is my therapy every week. Um, better self-care is I've blocked out my calendar. So like every, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks, I start late and like around 12 p.m. or something. So I have more time to decompress and to slow down. Um, it's taking holidays and like I went on holiday in August and I left my work phone in England because I hadn't realized I still always take my work phone and then I'm kind of checking a bit, right? So yeah, it's definitely a journey and it's reading challenging material to hold me accountable. So like Trisha, is it Hershey's Rest is Resistance is a book that is really confronting around how important rest is and how, like capitalism, racism, all the isms converge into this culture where you're just on this, like in this rat race all the time and you deprioritize rest and then you feel guilty for resting. So yeah, I'm on a journey though. Self-care is, it still needs to be better.
Yeah. And speaking of the isms that you've brought up there, being a professional black woman who owns her own companies, how do you navigate the space that you're in, really?
I don't think I reflect on my identity. Like I talk about it in my work because that's what we are as a consultancy. But I don't know if I really reflect on it in my own personal capacity. I just feel like I show up and as much as possible, I'm authentic in my presence and my delivery. But then I guess, yeah, there are moments where it's like I've said something and it's been really challenged, and then like a white colleague will say the same thing or frame it a different way and it's accepted, or where people are very hostile, like it's very clear they're being hostile towards me compared to other people. Um, yeah.
But in those spaces, how do you, because I think it's really important to ask, how do you advocate for yourself in those spaces? Because I know I'm getting better at it now, but excuse me, when I was younger, it was definitely, it was, I just would just shut down. So I would
Really?
understand that it was happening, but I wouldn't know how, because I didn't know how to respond to it. And I didn't want to be seen as quote unquote angry black woman. I then would just shut down. Whereas now I know to question it with a simple why, like why did you say that? Or, or just challenging it, or the same way so and so said it, I've just said it. Is that what you mean? That kind of thing. Um, because I have the language and I have the vocabulary for it now,
Yeah.
whereas before I didn't. So, how do you advocate for yourself now? Because I don't necessarily, because I think a lot of people think you just have to challenge it, but I'm realizing that sometimes it's not necessarily challenging it. Doesn't look like. I think a lot of people see that as confrontation, like you have to confront it, and it's like it's not always that.
Exactly.
It's not always that. So,
Yeah.
in what ways do you advocate for yourself in so that people understand that basically, for lack of a better way of saying this, you're not to be played with?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't come to play. Yeah. And that's really difficult because, like you say, it's so easy for us to then be labeled. It might not be articulated explicitly that you're angry or you're the angry black woman. But obviously, non-verbal communication and sometimes verbally, people say things that indicate that, right? And also, people behave in a way that weaponizes their own identity, like white womanhood, for example. And this is written about extensively. The way they then respond, like the tears or the victim narrative then subtly communicates you're the angry black woman or aggressive black woman. So it is like a rock and a hard place. But like you, there are though some moments I still shut down, to be honest, because some of the spaces that we're working in as a consultancy, you know, if I'm like the only black woman working in practice, let's say, or with people in a space that I'm very comfortable with and I know very well, there's a different confidence. But being that identity in a space of like senior, I don't know, government policy makers or something, it's still sometimes a shutdown response because it's a newer territory, but also I think the ramifications feel greater for me personally or for my company. So I just have to name that. I feel I don't yet have the confidence or safety to always react. But sometimes I do ask questions. Sometimes I call it out. I'm much better at calling it out now and saying, have you noticed that so and so's not replied to my email and I'm a black woman? Do you think it could be that I'm a black woman? Or do you think it could be something else, you know? Or isn't it interesting that all the white men in this organization have resisted X, Y, and Z or been very confrontational? And so I will name it and I will frame it in a curious way, but I will name it. And also, my biggest skill now is withdrawing myself. I will hand in that contract termination email or send it over. I will decline to partner with you. I will not be at your table because I'm not going to put myself. In fact, this is one of the aspects of self care I'm getting better at. I'm not putting myself in these spaces if I don't have to anymore.
Yeah, that is it. And I love that you say that. And I love when you spoke about safety as well, because it's that thing of where nobody questions why, quote unquote, you may be the angry black woman, or you may just go along to get along, um, because you don't feel safe in that environment. And if that was addressed, or that was catered to the way, I guess, white fragility is catered to,
Mm-hmm.
then you would have a workplace where, because they want you to bring your authentic self to work, to be your authentic self, but in a lot of spaces my authentic self doesn't look like anything you recognize, so therefore you may be threatened by it. So actually I do have to withdrawing for me means protecting my peace. And I think that's really, really, is so important for all of us, and in terms
Yes.
of the work that you do for the young people, because you're advocating, you're working in a space where you're advocating for young people, and there's that whole idea of leading by example. And it's kind of like, well, if I'm not doing it, I can't expect you to
Mm,
be
mm,
better at it than I am. So, I want better for you, so therefore I have to show up better for myself. And I think, in terms
mm.
of going back to your self-care, I think it's that whole idea of what would you do for other people, that you're not doing for yourself, and then find a way to give that to yourself, because it's not always easy. There's always that sense of guilt, like, I'm not doing enough if I give this to myself, whereas to somebody else you freely and willingly give it. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the primary young person that I'm concerned about is my child. What
Mm,
example am I setting to my child? Um, so I think, yeah, I am a role model to other people's children, but most importantly to my own. And
mm,
there's a book, I can't remember, I think it's by Jordan Peterson. I can't remember the title. It's something to do with how to live a happy life or something. And I remember reading in his book where he talks about, as humans, for example, we're very good at, like, if our pet is on medication, making sure they have their meds like every day, blah blah blah. But there's something, right, when it comes to us, like, we just don't afford ourselves that same level of care and compassion and all that kind of stuff. And it really struck a chord because I think, yeah, I just was like guilty, basically. And it is, like you say, so important that we have to also live by that example and afford that same care to ourselves.
mm. I think, yeah, and I think that's really, really true. And that's why this whole idea of self-care is so important. And so what I would ask you is, what have been the best resources, both personally and professionally, that have helped you along the way?
Ooh. Resources, comes in different forms. So I'll start with the people. People have been like the best resource, from my family to my friends, to my therapist, my ADHD coach, my business coach, my mentors. People have probably been the biggest resource. My partners, who I collaborate with, my team, in fact, my team are probably like the biggest resource that, like, have ever existed to help me along the way. And then there are, like, tools, obviously, that we use, like systems. But I actually think people have been the biggest resource, from learning to support to encouragement to care, um, to being able to achieve things because it's been done collaboratively. Yeah, so I would say people have been the biggest resource.
And what do you think has been your biggest failure so far, and what have you learned from it?
That's an interesting question. I try not to view things as failure per se because it's all like like your follower wants the learning, so it's all been learning. I'm just trying to think about what has been, like, maybe a biggest bit disappointment. Such a tough question because I just try not to frame things in that way.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, it's a really good question, and I was trying to think about this. I think it's
Maybe.
just,
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
go
go
on.
ahead. No, I was about to say maybe it's what's been your biggest challenge then if it's not been a failure.
Yeah, and I think it's around when you do a new start, when you start a company as the founder, everything's on you.
Mm,
And then even as you grow and you manage to recruit one staff member and a few, like there's five of us, and then we've got associates, which is amazing. And this is our like fifth year, which is again amazing. And I just am so grateful and thank God all the time that we have this. But it's really challenging because you get to those each staff member and you're like, yes, okay, this can be handed over. Or yes, we can do this. But then I feel like I'm just still constantly doing like everything. So I guess my biggest challenge is like scaling at a company, providing enough support to my team and providing enough care to myself.
yeah.
It's a real difficult thing to juggle. And how I've overcome that is by, I think, like I said, prioritizing some of my self-care, but also just trying to create a culture where we recognize people are more important than anything else. So it's like, take your annual leave. We're going to have these team meetings. We're going to have these learning sessions. We're going to carve out a budget. So everybody has a training budget. We will not cut the training budget if we ever have to cut budget. We are getting together like at least twice a year. We will not cut that budget. Because I think what would be a failure in terms of my values is if we just got too caught up in delivering the work, chasing like the big milestones or achievements on paper, and I neglected the people. But it is a challenge to keep the people at the center also at the same time.
That's amazing. And what's amazing for me is that you sound like the manager that everybody wants to have. Because in workplaces, a lot of workplaces, managers are there to do their job, but not necessarily manage people. So it sounds like you take on each of your employees, you look at their skill set, you look at what they can do, and you're looking to develop them and help them through. Whereas in a lot of places, people aren't willing to do that. They just literally want to do their job, and they're assigned the title manager because it makes them more money as opposed to actually being a manager. So where does that ideal come from for you to actually want to help the people? Because I understand that the end goal is that you understand that every once a rising tide raises all ships. But where does that ideology come from for you?
Yeah, it's a really good, interesting listening to you because it has been to my detriment personally.
Mhm.
And sometimes it could be viewed as to the detriment of the company, given we are a limited company. But it comes from just my own values and I guess personality. That's what I enjoy. That's how I thrive. Those are the environments where I've enjoyed and done the best, when I've had really supportive managers, when I've had great learning development opportunities, where people have trusted me to deliver the work and not judge me because I've been late today and I'm an ADHD. So, those kind of things aren't helpful, right?
Mhm.
So it's come from my good experiences, my good managers, my good um, leaders, and my values, and also my bad ones. Because when you've had a manager and you're like, if I ever have my own company, I will never manage that. Like they almost like traumatize you because it's such a painful and awful experience. And
Mhm.
I would rather not have my company and avoid becoming those people,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, that's and I think that's that's really beautiful because I think a lot of people just kind of focus on them, like even when you said there that it's been to the detriment of sometimes you and your organization because it's what your values are. That's what you're choosing to be true to as opposed to the bottom line, because you could be very much like, well, this is not financially what I want to see, so therefore I'm not going to do it. But actually, you're like, no, it's the whole idea. Do you have the idea of that the money will eventually come, and when it does come, it will look the way you want it to look? Because your company is relatively still young, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be honest, that's actually the biggest challenge and something that I'm trying to like reconcile because I'm not. So we have a CFO, and that's
Mhm.
probably her biggest like challenge. Like we are a company. Like just to remind you, we have got to do like X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
financially. And also my business coach, she'll be very challenging about revenue and growth and stuff because that's just not where my mind is at. But that's why we have different roles in a company and
Yes.
why we have to have that culture where we can challenge, where we can be speaking up because yeah, I definitely am that kind of like values. Let's be nice to everyone. Let's help them. Like da, 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 da. And that's great. And it is, I would say, a defining like characteristic of our organization. But also, yeah, like you say, I get in trouble a lot, basically.
Oh no, but I still I know that you say that you get in trouble a lot, but I really really do love it, and I love the whole idea also that you started your company literally just as the pandemic was happening. Sounds like, because 5 years ago, right? So the pandemic was like four, and you started. How did you how did you get through that period?
I am a Christian and I truly believe God because it's wild. When I think back, literally, I had been doing my trade. So my company actually started in 2017, but I
Mhm.
was a one-woman band. You know, I'll take some days off, do a bit of training here and there on the weekends because people would knew about my training and stuff. So it started off as a training, and then as that was progressing and doing really well, and as I was starting to, I guess, become a bit frustrated by what I was able to do within my jobs, that's when I started to think about taking it more seriously. So it took from 2017 to like 2019 to kind of work through with my coach and stuff, like a business plan, all this kind of stuff. And then I decided, yeah, 2019 to go full time because I was coming home from my full time job doing full time work till like whatever time in the morning on client work. So I was like, okay, time to take the plunge. I literally handed my resignation, and like 2 weeks later, I find out I'm pregnant. And then the pandemic happens. And I was like, right, okay. Um, okay, if like all that, I'm a Christian, as I said, so all things are possible, and here we are. Basically.
I love that. So, how did your faith carry you through? Because I think that's really, really important. Because the idea of faith and the actual act of faith are so different.
Yeah, very different. And like, some as Christians sometimes we say we walk by faith. I was literally walking by faith because
Mm.
that maternity package that I had just resigned from, do not think I was not tempted to be like, I retract my resignation. And I actually forgot I was even moving as well. I
Wow.
was,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I moved. Yeah, like, but I feel like this is all my testimony. So
Yeah.
I think there's always the prayer, there's always the reading of scripture, there's always the, communion and connecting, going to church and stuff. But it's really believing for me that God doesn't put me in situations that where I can't prevail. And there are stories in the Bible where people go through tough times. Like, this is also part of being a Christian. Not everything's always like all rosy and stuff. So it's just having that trust that whatever happens with this situation, God is in control. However, this company is supposed to end up, that's how it's supposed to end up. But I'm not walking alone, so let's just do it. But there are lots of tears, and there are moments when you're like, God, please, if I need to go get a job, can you just tell me, because I don't know how I'm gonna pay like my bills and stuff if this doesn't work out and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. That's to me, that's just amazing. So it sounds like that was like a really, really scary time. Would you say that that has been like what has been your greatest fear?
Literally, that I can't pay my mortgage, like that I can't feed my child, because like that I can't get enough clients. Like, I literally left that role, was
Mhm.
pregnant. So then it was like I can't take loads of maternity leave. So then my fear was, is my child going to have like attachment issues or feel abandoned, or like how's he going to connect with me? Is he going to think the nanny is his mom? Like, the impact on my like my marriage. Um there were so many fears. Like, it's been one of the most, we'll say, courageous times in my life.
No, that to me is really, and I love the word that you use, the word courage, because courage means of it's, I think it comes from the French word or either the French or the Latin word, and it's of courage of the heart. I mean,
Oh,
so in terms of putting your faith into it and having the courage, where did where did that courage again, where did that courage come from in terms of the fact that because you could have said, okay, I'm gonna go and get a job or I'm gonna retract my I'm gonna retract my resignation. Um, but you didn't do any of those things. You chose to again stay loyal to your morals and your values and carry that through.
Yeah, I think that I believe in like this, what we're doing. I truly believe in. I truly think we can make a difference, and I guess I have to believe in myself. But this also, I feel like God just put me in the right time at the right place and the right to connect me to the right people. I really do think like, yeah, you know, God was at work because my business coach just happened to be mentioned to me by one of my previous managers. And then a black woman, she's been with me the whole journey, just incredible. I went on this mental health first aider course where I connected with this incredible woman, Angela Brooke, who's a coach. And then she was one of my first associates in the company. She's been here from the start, but she's also just an incredible person, incredible friend. So that like I guess I just happened to also cross paths with people who believed in the vision, were incredibly skilled and supportive. Because like I said, the biggest resource is the people. I'm just one part of what I've achieved. It's definitely been a collective effort and everybody has made it possible.
Yeah. There's a saying that says your network is your net worth. Um, how much do you believe in that, or do you believe in that?
Absolutely do.
Yeah.
Absolutely do. Like some of the incredible people that I know that I work with, that I've worked with, and being able to learn from them or reach out to them for help is priceless.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
help them too, I'd like to think.
Yeah. But even that exchange creates an energy of that just kind of I think bleeds out into other areas. So you think by helping, you look at it as, well, if I help this person is going to help me back. And it's not always the case. It's because you've almost opened that door to help that person, then it opens a door for somebody else to help you, and then it grows, and you just kind of like, how did I end up in this space of gratitude where things are just flowing to me? So have you had that kind of thing of where things that have been unexpected have just come your way out of you being generous first?
Yeah, I definitely think that saying do unto others as you want done to you, and what you give out comes back. And that's how KIJIJI was born. KIJIJI was also born during COVID period with my co-founder Ade Solarin. And it's a community for Black safeguarding children professionals because we recognise there's an inequity in organisations where we don't get brought into those little networks, or people don't tell us, oh, there's this opportunity coming up. Like we just don't have all of the insider
Connections.
knowledge in, yeah, so we were like, okay, let's build a community to help people thrive in their careers, so they get that in those connections, they get the insider information, they get the opportunity to connect, to give, to pay it forward, and to receive. That is literally what Kijiji is about. It means village in Swahili, to be the village, for exactly the reason that you say.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that because it also goes back to the whole idea again that it takes a village. And I think sometimes you can end up feeling so alone that you just stop. And so the
Right.
fact that you're in a position now where you're bringing people together and you're creating the villages not just for yourself but for those around you. Again, just I've been saying it all throughout this interview, but just the whole idea that your values and morals really translate in the work that you do, and it's about that first. And so adding on to that, in terms of that being first, how how do you then, like, so for example, you, like you said with your CFO, they're like, no, you we're still a company. So how do you work in that space so that you can come to a mutual understanding that benefits both of you, that works for both of you?
I think that's the journey we're on, because like you said, we're still a young company. My CFO's been in post about a year now, and I've got a great business manager as well. So I think, yeah, with the collaboration is great, and that's the learning. How do we navigate that? Basically, it's what, ask me in a year, and I might have a more coherent answer for you, basically. But that is definitely the journey. We're trying to figure it out. Where's the line? Where's the balance?
Yeah, but I love that you're honest about it, because a lot of people will just talk about the good bits and kind of not mention it all. And it's so important that all is mentioned so that everybody can get like so you can people can get a bigger idea of what's at play here and how you're navigating through and how you're figuring out as you go. And in terms of one thing I did want to ask you, like in terms of your wider village, so outside of the business, how understanding have your friends and your family been with you being in business, especially with two businesses? How have you been able to navigate that? You're smiling.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I was just thinking about this word understanding. I would say they are all understanding, but I think they are also all, they love me. So they
Mhm,
try and hold me accountable because it's not normal. It's not healthy.
mhm.
Like some of the hour. So I think you're just to say your previous point about the reality. The reality is establishing a business, a financially viable business and growing it is hard work. Um, and maybe people don't necessarily do as many hours as I've done, but you have to put so much into it. There's been times where I've literally not slept, like I've worked 24 hours to meet a deadline, or yeah, largely to meet a couple of deadlines, which I won't do again. But where if somebody doesn't deliver something, you've got to pick it up. You're the face of your organization. You can't afford the impact on your reputation. Like, it is hard. So I think my family have been understanding because they do understand that the business is being established, but I think they also are challenging where they're like, I mean, I come from a West Indian family. It's not, a culture generally where their words are minced. My gran, the other day, she's like, look, you're too skinny. Look at your neck. Look at your neck. You can see the hole in your neck. She's like, you need to eat some more food. My mum, she says it how it is.
Mhm.
Um, so I've got people who definitely check me and understand this is a business and support that and are very supportive, but also recognize that I'm a person and I'm a family member, and there has to be more balance.
Yeah, well, I think I personally think that's so important because that's where the love is. And because I guess they're showing you that love, you're able then to do what you do because you are giving a lot to yourself for not even necessarily not to yourself, but to your business and all the endeavors you've got going on. So my
Mm.
next question is, how do you fit it all in? Like, and have you ever felt like you couldn't?
Yeah, I definitely have. So
Mm,
I do my businesses and then I do other things like I'm a school governor, I'm a lay member for a Safeguarding Children Partnership, I'm a trustee, I sit on a few boards. So when it's got to a point where I cannot fit things in, I've just stepped down from the voluntary stuff first and foremost, because obviously I don't get paid. So my actual work and my job and Kijiji is generally doable. And when I get to, like, I just emailed somebody the other day to say, oh, I'm feeling a strain. So if the strain continues, I might have to step down as school governor at the end of the year, because that stuff is, a nice to have, basically. I try to give back. I've always been big on community, but it can't be at the detriment of myself, my family, and my income.
yeah, yeah. And I think I just love the honesty and the fact that you're able to verbalize it because so many people can't. So many people just continue, and then the burnout happens, and then they completely shut down, and everything kind of crumbles all at once. So where did you learn the vocabulary to be able to say, I'm getting to that, but not even because you're not even saying it when you're there. You're saying it even before you get there. Like I'm starting to feel like this, so I may have to take a step back. Where did the
Yeah,
vocabulary come from that?
that's been the learning, because I had done it too late before. So I had a really great ADHD coach before, where I was experiencing burnout, I would say, at that point, and that's what she helped me to do, to segment like what's going on in your life. Sorry. And we talk about ADHD coaching and think it's about your ADHD, maybe like something to do with your cognition or how your brain is working, but it's about like your life and how your ADHD is interacting with the different aspects of your life. So she helped me prioritize having 2 meals a day at least, prioritize having at least a couple of liters of water, because I was so burnt out. I was literally not meeting like basic needs.
Wow.
And then I stepped down from a previous role at that point, and that's how I learned I have to be able to step down. Actually, there's nothing to gain by thinking you have to keep delivering and thinking how is it going to look if I step down, especially as a black woman, about neurodivergent woman. But actually, you hold on, you do a terrible job, or you make a big mistake. That's when you're going to be definitely seen as the Black neurodivergent woman, or you're going to feel that sense of failure. What is it that's pushing you to feel like you've got to keep doing all this stuff? And I know part of it is my neurodivergence, because that's the manifestation of ADHD, the busyness and the thinking you can do a million things. But that coaching helped me to understand that, to frame it, and then articulate no means no sometimes, like step back.
Yeah. And I loved also with no means no. One thing I learned a few years ago was no means no and no is enough. And a lot of people, and I remember even at the time a friend challenging me on that. She goes, no, but you should explain the no. And then I went back and I thought about it. I was like, no, you don't need to explain the no. No,
Tell them. Yes, yeah, I love that. Where did that come from for you?
So for me, where it came from was just being a people pleaser. And in similar to you, with my I think being a people pleaser and also being neurodiverse, having dyslexia, I never felt good enough. So then
Okay.
when I heard somebody, I think it must have been a video that I was watching, and maybe on YouTube or something, and somebody was like, is enough. And my friend who I was actually doing a podcast with at the time, she challenged it when I said, "Oh, my no means no," and she was challenged it. And at the time I was thinking about it, and I was just like, maybe. And then I thought about it, and I thought, no, because no is enough. But you have to know that your no is enough, is what I've learned. And if you don't know that your no is enough, then you're always going to allow people to challenge, like I did in that moment. Like I understood the concept, but I didn't understand that my no was enough. But now that I
Yeah.
understand my no is enough, it's like no means no. And it's okay that it means no. And I think because I think we wrap it up in so much stuff as well. Like the no
Yeah.
means I'm not a good person. It means that, they may stop talking to me. They may have all these bad things to say. And it's just like, no, I just said no in this moment. And I still love you, I still care about you. You can ask me tomorrow and it may be a yes, but today's a no, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's a lot though, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
all of those thoughts, like it would be good to see like almost a transcript of all of our thoughts, right? In that process.
Yeah. And it's so interesting when you think about thoughts as well, because I think it's something like we have 17,000 or maybe more than that, 17, either 17 or 70, I'm not sure which, thoughts, 1,000 thoughts a day. And 70% of those are negative. And for every negative thought, I think it's something like it takes 17 or 18 positive thoughts to neutralize it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm
so
thinking.
basically, and it comes from the way our brains work. So it's like your brain works to keep you safe. And hence why a lot of people don't like change and things like that. So because it's working to keep you safe, that's where those thoughts are coming from. So if you're not aware of that, you can live in that perpetual cycle of something bad's
Yeah.
gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen. And so add that with being a people pleaser and you're not feeling good enough.
It's a
And so
lot.
yeah, it is. It is. So it's learning to work through that stuff. And like you say, I think what's really important is taking that pause and just kind of looking around and seeing how you feel, being aware of your thoughts, and then proceeding. Because I think sometimes we think that we need to act straight away, and we don't.
Yeah.
Just, it's okay to take a breath.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm better at this in my personal life and
Mm,
personal decisions. I still am on a big journey when it comes to the business, because I feel like there's such a potential impact
yeah,
as a growing business and stuff. But yeah, that is one of the key messages from this episode has to be no means no, your no means no. And that's enough. Like that's it.
that's what I'm going to label it. Your name is.
Wow. There we go.
Oh, so what I want to ask you is, what excites you most about the next 12 months?
Well, firstly, my son is 3. He just turned 3. So I'm so excited about our dates and our adventures, because he's just at this age where he's just like, when he just talks to me now every day, I'm just like, is this really my child talking? Like he's all the concepts, his vocabulary, he has he can express his wishes. And so like tomorrow or this week, I can't remember, we're going to have a swimming pool with loads of slides and waves, because he was able to tell me he wants to go where the big circle slides are. So I'm very excited about this precious like age and year with him. um Business wise, I'm excited because, as I said, we've got like some stability with some of our key team members, and we've got some new staff members that will be coming on board, and our associates, we've got new ones and older ones that are, a great mix of skills, expertise, and people. So I'm very excited to see collaboratively what we develop and we deliver. And Ade and I with KIJIJI, is going to be an exciting time to look at the next year and what we're doing there. We've got some things in the pipeline that I think will be very exciting for people. But I have to say, what I'm most excited about is my child, because this age and I just feel like it's going to be the best year. And I've worked with children and people my whole career. Like, I know it's not going to last, and I have to keep challenging myself. My no needs to mean no. I need to go home to my son, because he's going to just grow like really quick.
Yeah. And maybe he's the grounding that you needed in order to be able to do all the wonderful things that you do, but still also make time for yourself and your family.
Yeah, sure.
And what advice would you give to a woman who wants to go to her next level but isn't sure where or how to start?
Do you know, this question always makes me laugh, because I feel like, can someone give me the advice? Because I just don't see myself in those terms, right?
But you're doing it, so you are there.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, how we are like imposterized, I guess. But my main advice then is believe in yourself, in your skills, and get some support. Whether it's a community, there's so many groups I'm in, whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook, for like women in this, women in that, or neurodivergent this or that. Find community, and also a coach of some sort. If like, there's an amazing coach here, but also there are other coaches. So I think coaches are just incredible. I've had some fantastic coaches who've really helped me just get some clarity and give me a bit of a push, some objectives, a bit of challenge to help me actually deliver what I actually do want to do. But I just need some support.
Yeah. As we're drawing to a close, is there a question that you would have liked me to ask you that I already haven't?
No, thank you for all the questions. I hope that I've answered and been helpful, but it's been a really great conversation. You've made me reflect. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for being so open and honest and transparent, because I think that then helps others. So thank you for that. So my final question is, what gives you a meant for more mindset?
I don't know. We've covered so much in this conversation. It's hard to pick one thing. I'd probably say, everything we've covered. And I think I'll just summarize my why. Like, I do all of these things to improve outcomes for racially minoritized children, primarily in terms of professionally. And that is my driver. That is like my vision, my goal, my motivation. And everything that I'm doing, all the more that I'm trying to achieve, is to improve the lives and the outcomes for those children, basically. So yeah, that's what I would say.
So Laurelle, I want to thank you, and I also want to acknowledge you. I want to say thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for being a woman who sticks by her morals and her values and is led by her faith, and then allows that faith to be shown to other people in terms of your grace and your kindness and your willingness to help others to become better, especially young people, namely your son, but just young people generally. Just in the work that you do, you really are a shining star. You really are a north light that's shining on others to help them move towards their own north light. So I want to say thank you for all that you are. Thank you for all that you do. And may you continue to be blessed in all that you are and all that you do.
Amen. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Before we go, please let our listeners know where they can connect with you online.
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way is if you go to link.tree/Laurelle Brown. And you can just type me into Google, Laurelle Brown, and I'll come up a lot. Find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on X. So yeah, I'm on pretty much all the socials.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So guys, that's it for this episode. I want to say thank you again for listening in, and I shall see you on the next one. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. For more about me, what I do, check out my website, nextlevelcoachinggroup.com, where you can also download my free Release Your Mindset Blocks guide. You can also follow me on Instagram at Next Level Coaching Group or on Facebook at Next Level Lounge. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating and review. Thanks. See you on the next one.